The mining colony on Proxima 7 was as dull as it got. It floated around a dying star that barely gave off enough light to see by, and the air inside the dome smelled faintly of recycled sweat and machine oil. The workers shuffled through their days in identical gray uniforms, their faces pale from too little sunlight and too much coffee brewed from powdered beans. They called it the grind, though no one really knew why. It wasn't like they were doing anything exciting. Lisa arrived on a shuttle late one evening, dragging a large crate behind her. She had short brown hair tied back into a practical ponytail, wore scuffed boots, and carried herself with the kind of quiet confidence that made people glance twice before looking away awkwardly. Nobody paid much attention at first. New hires came and went all the time, but when she opened the crate, things changed. Out stepped Rex, a massive tiger whose golden eyes gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights. His fur shimmered like silk, rippling over muscles that looked more engineered than natural. One worker dropped his wrench, another spilled his drink, and someone muttered, "What the hell?" "This is Rex," Lisa said simply, scratching him behind the ears. He purred softly, deep enough to make the floor vibrate slightly. "You brought a tiger asterisk?" Charlie, the head of security, asked, his voice rising an octave higher than usual. He was a tall man with broad shoulders, but now seemed smaller somehow, standing next to Rex. "Not just a tiger," Lisa replied, not missing a beat. "He's trained." That got laughs. A few of the miners leaned against the walls, smirking openly. Someone snorted, "Yeah, right. Trained to do what?" "Eat us faster." Lisa didn't rise to the bait. Instead, she smiled faintly, almost like she enjoyed being underestimated. "We'll see," she said, then turned to Rex and gave a low whistle. The big cat immediately sat down, tail curling neatly around his paws. He stared ahead, completely still, as if waiting for orders. "Cute trick," said Danny, one of the younger Marines stationed at the base. He crossed his arms, trying to look unimpressed. "Does he roll over too?" Lisa ignored him and started walking toward the living quarters, Rex padding silently beside her. As they passed, some of the workers whispered about how crazy she must be to think a tiger could survive out here. Others joked about ordering him to fetch tools or guard the snack machines. By the time she reached her bunk, word had spread across the entire colony. Lisa and her tiger were officially the punchline of the week. But Lisa didn't seem bothered. She settled Rex into a corner of her room, where he stretched out lazily, watching her unpack with half-closed eyes. Every so often, someone would walk past her door and peek inside, only to find Rex staring back at them. Most hurried away after that, muttering something about not wanting trouble. It wasn't long before rumors started swirling again. Some claimed Rex had been modified in secret labs, others swore he was part robot. Whatever the truth, most agreed on one thing: Lisa wasn't sharing details and Rex wasn't exactly normal. Meanwhile, strange things were happening outside the colony. Deep beneath the surface, the drills had hit something unusual, a layer of rock unlike anything anyone had seen before. It glowed faintly, pulsing with an eerie rhythm that reminded some of heartbeats. When geologists tried to take samples, the equipment malfunctioned. Sensors picked up tremors that shouldn't exist on such a dead planet. And late at night, when the winds howled loudest, there were whispers of distant sounds coming from below, metal scraping against stone, faint clicks, and hums that sent shivers down spines. No one told Lisa about these oddities. Why bother? She was just the weird girl with a tiger. After all, if anything, the rest of the crew thought she'd be the first casualty if something went wrong. After all, who brings a wild animal to a place like this? Lisa heard the rumors anyway. She always did. But instead of worrying, she spent her evenings teaching Rex new commands or maybe showing off a little. One day, while a group of engineers argued loudly about whether the glowing rocks were worth investigating, Rex suddenly stood up, padded over to the door, and knocked it open with a single swipe of his paw. Everyone froze, staring at him like he just solved the math problem. "He does that sometimes," Lisa said casually, walking past them. "Keeps the hinges oiled." The laughter died down after that. Still, nobody expected anything serious to happen. Not yet. The colony buzzed with nervous energy the next morning. News had spread quickly about the drill team disappearing overnight. The Deep Core Crew 5 workers sent to explore the glowing rock lair had vanished without a trace. Their comms were silent, their gears scattered, and their suits shredded as though something sharp and angry had torn through them. No bodies, just emptiness. Security head Charlie called an emergency meeting in the main hall, where everyone gathered around. A holographic map of the drill site. The map flickered slightly, showing the last known location of the missing team. "We're sending a recon squad," Charlie announced, his voice tight. "But we need volunteers." No one stepped forward at first. The room was quiet except for the hum of machinery overhead. Then Danny, the young Marine who joked about Rex rolling over, raised his hand hesitantly. "I'll go," he said, glancing at the map. "Someone has to figure out what happened." Charlie nodded. "Good. Who else?" Lisa walked into the room just as the question hung in the air. She carried her usual calm demeanor, Rex trotting silently beside her. The murmurs started almost immediately. "She's not serious," someone whispered. "That tiger's going down there. What's it gonna do? Roar at whatever killed them." Ignoring the comments, Lisa stopped near the front of the group. "Count us in," she said simply, nodding toward Rex. Charlie blinked. "You sure this isn't some training exercise? We don't know what's down there." "I'm aware," Lisa replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "But if it's dangerous, you'll want Rex with you." Danny smirked. "Yeah, because nothing says prepared like bringing a house cat to a fight." Lisa didn't respond. Instead, she turned to Rex and gave a soft whistle. The tiger sat down instantly, tail curling neatly around his paws. His golden eyes scanned the room, unblinking and sharp. For a moment, no one spoke. Charlie sighed. "Fine. You're in. But stay close to the Marines." He pointed to other volunteers, a mechanic named Pete and a biologist named Rachel, and added, "Stick together. And remember, safety first." The team geared up quickly, loading supplies onto a transport vehicle designed for underground travel. As they prepared to leave, Mrs. Elliott, the corporate liaison, approached Lisa. She was a thin woman with sharp features and an even sharper tone. "This is ridiculous," she snapped, gesturing at Rex. "If anything happens to the equipment or worse, the data we'll lose months of progress." "Relax," Lisa said, adjusting her pack. "Rex won't break anything unless it's trying to kill us." Mrs. Elliott opened her mouth to argue, but thought better of it. Instead, she turned on her heel and marched back to the control center. Muttering under her breath about liability waivers, the journey to the drill site was tense. The transport rumbled through narrow tunnels, its headlights cutting through the darkness. Dust filled the air, making breathing difficult even with masks. Rex crouched low in the back of the vehicle, his body swaying easily with the bumps and jolts. Occasionally, he growled softly, a sound that made the others glance nervously at each other. When they arrived, the scene was worse than anyone expected. Tools lay scattered across the ground, some bent beyond recognition. Pieces of fabric clung to jagged rocks, smeared with dark stains. A power drill hummed faintly nearby, stuck in place as though abandoned mid-use. There were no signs of struggle, just destruction. "This doesn't look like an accident," Danny muttered, scanning the area with a flashlight. "Something tore through here." Rachel knelt to examine a piece of fabric. "Whatever it was, it's strong. Look at these cuts, they're too clean to be random." Pete adjusted his helmet nervously. "So, alien life? Or just really pissed off wildlife?" Before anyone could answer, Rex let out a low growl. Everyone froze. The tiger stood suddenly, his ears flattening against his skull, his gaze locked onto a shadowy corner of the tunnel. "What is it?" Lisa asked quietly, stepping closer to him. Rex didn't move. Then, faster than anyone could react, he lunged forward. There was a blur of motion, a metallic clang, and then silence. When the dust settled, they saw Rex standing over a strange object, a small drone-like creature. Its metal casing crushed beneath his massive paw. It twitched weakly, emitting faint clicks before going still. For a moment, no one spoke. Danny broke the silence first. Did your tiger just take down an alien drone?" Lisa shrugged. "He reads movement patterns. You should have seen his training videos." Rachel stared at Rex, her face pale. "That thing wasn't alive. It was mechanical." "How did he know it was hostile?" "He's smart," Lisa said simply. "Smarter than most people give him credit for." The discovery shifted the mood. Fear mingled with awe as the team realized Rex might actually be useful. They pressed deeper into the tunnel, following the trail of destruction left behind by the missing crew. Every step felt heavier, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on them. Eventually, they reached a sealed bulkhead. Reinforced steel blocked their path, etched with symbols none of them recognized. Ancient writing, perhaps, or warnings from whoever built this place. Whatever it wasn't human. "We can't get through this," Pete said, tapping the door with a tool. "It's solid." Rachel shook her head. "Even explosives won't work." "Look at the material, it's unlike anything we've seen." Lisa stepped forward, studying the door closely. After a moment, she whistled once. Rex padded up beside her, sniffing the panel curiously. He tilted his head, then raised a massive paw and swiped it across the surface in a deliberate pattern. The door slid open smoothly, revealing a vast chamber beyond. Lights flickered to life, illuminating rows of dormant machines and strange artifacts. In the center of the room stood a towering structure, pulsating with a faint blue glow. Everyone stared in stunned silence. Danny finally managed to speak. "Your tiger just hacked an alien door?" Lisa smiled faintly. "I told you he was trained." As the team stepped inside, the air grew colder. The machines began humming louder, as if waking from a long sleep. Something stirred in the shadows, watching them. Whatever it wasn't happy they were there. The chamber was vast, stretching farther than the team could see in the dim light. Strange machines lined the walls, their surfaces etched with glowing patterns that pulsed faintly. Like a heartbeat, the air felt heavier here, thick with an energy that made everyone uneasy. Rex prowled ahead, his tail low and his ears swiveling as he scanned the room. Lisa kept close to him, her eyes sharp and alert. "This place feels wrong," Danny muttered, gripping his weapon tighter. His voice echoed softly, bouncing off the walls. "Like it's alive." Rachel nodded, her face pale, but determined. She moved toward one of the machines, reaching out hesitantly to touch its surface. "These designs, they're beyond anything we've ever seen. This tech is centuries ahead of ours." Pete stayed near the door, glancing back nervously. "Maybe we should leave. Whatever's down here, it doesn't seem friendly." Before anyone could respond, the hum of the machines grew louder. A deep vibration shook the floor beneath their feet, rattling tools and sending dust drifting down from the ceiling. Rex growled, his body tensing as he turned to face the center of the room. The towering structure there began to glow brighter, its blue light spilling across the space. "Something's waking up," Lisa said quietly, her hand resting on Rex's shoulder. Her voice was calm, but her eyes darted around the room, assessing every shadow. The glow intensified, and suddenly, a shape emerged from the structure. It was tall and sleek, its body covered in smooth metallic plates that shifted and shimmered like liquid. Its head, or what passed for a head, was featureless except for a single red eye that scanned the room. When it focused on the humans, the eye flared brighter, and a mechanical whir filled the air. "It sees us," Rachel whispered, backing away instinctively. "It knows we're here." Danny raised his weapon, aiming it at the creature. "Stay back. We're armed." The alien didn't move. Instead, it tilted its head slightly, studying them with cold precision. Then, without warning, it emitted a high-pitched screech that reverberated through the chamber. Everyone clapped their hands over their ears, wincing in pain. Rex roared, the sound deep and thunderous, drowning out the alien's noise for a moment. Lisa grabbed Danny's arm before he could fire. "Wait, don't shoot unless you have to. We don't know what it'll do." "But it's hostile," Danny protested, his finger trembling on the trigger. "Look at it. It's curious," Lisa corrected, her gaze locked on the alien. "For now. But if you attack, it'll retaliate. And I don't think any of us want to see what happens then." The alien lowered its head, the red eye dimming slightly. For a moment, it seemed to be considering them. Then, with another mechanical whir, it turned and moved deeper into the chamber. The team watched it go, unsure whether to feel relieved or more terrified. "What do we do now?" Pete asked, his voice shaking. "Follow it, or get out while we can." "We follow," Lisa said firmly. "If it leads us somewhere, we might find answers, or a way to stop whatever's happening here." Danny groaned. "Of course, because chasing an alien into the unknown always works out great." Ignoring him, Lisa gestured for Rex to lead the way. The tiger sniffed the air, his nose twitching as he tracked the alien's scent. He padded forward confidently, his massive paws silent on the smooth floor. The rest of the team followed reluctantly, weapons drawn and nerves stretched tight. The alien led them through a series of narrow corridors, each one lit by the same pulsating blue glow. The walls were covered in carvings and symbols, some of which seemed to shift and change when no one was looking directly at them. Rachel stopped occasionally to examine them, muttering about how advanced the civilization must have been. Lisa urged her to keep moving, reminding her that they didn't have time to linger. After several minutes, the corridor opened into another large chamber. This one was different from the first. It was darker, colder, and filled with strange pods arranged in rows. Each pod contained something inside, though the glass was fogged and cracked, making it hard to tell what exactly lay within. The hum of machinery was louder here, almost deafening. Rex paused at the entrance, his body tense. He sniffed the air again, then growled softly. Lisa knelt beside him, running a hand along his side. "What is it, boy? What do you smell?" Before Rex could react further, one of the pods hissed loudly. The glass cracked wider, and a figure stumbled out. It was humanoid, but wrong, its limbs too long, its skin gray and leathery, its eyes black and empty. It let out a guttural sound, somewhere between a growl and a scream, and lunged at the nearest person. Pete screamed and fired his weapon instinctively. The shot hit the creature in the chest, knocking it back but not killing it. It scrambled to its feet, moving faster than anyone expected, and charged again. Danny shouted a warning, raising his own gun, but before he could fire, Rex leaped forward. The tiger moved like lightning, faster than the human eye could fully process. He slammed into the creature, pinning it to the ground with his massive weight. His jaws closed around its throat, and with a quick, brutal twist, he ended its life. The creature went limp, its body twitching once before falling still. Everyone stared at Rex, stunned. Even Lisa looked impressed. "Good boy," she said, scratching behind his ears. "You saved Pete." Pete sank to his knees, shaking. I thought it was going to kill me." "It probably would have," Lisa admitted bluntly. "But you're safe now, thanks to Rex." Rachel stepped closer to examine the dead creature. "This isn't just alien technology," she said, her voice trembling. "This is alien biology. These things, they're weapons. Living weapons." As if on cue, more pods began hissing. Glass cracked, and figures stirred within. The team backed away slowly, their weapons trained on the emerging creatures. There were too many to fight, even with Rex's help. Lisa glanced around quickly, assessing their options. "We need to disable the system," she said. "Find the source of the power. If we cut it off, maybe we can stop these things from activating." "And how do we do that?" Danny demanded, his voice rising. "You want us to run into the middle of an alien death trap?" "Yes," Lisa replied simply. "Because staying here means dying anyway." She whistled sharply, catching Rex's attention. The tiger bounded back to her side, his golden eyes gleaming with determination. Together, they sprinted toward the far end of the chamber, where a massive console stood surrounded by glowing conduits. The rest of the team followed, reluctantly, firing shots behind them to hold off the advancing creatures. When they reached the console, Lisa examined it quickly. "Rex, guard me," she ordered. The tiger positioned himself in front of her, growling fiercely at any creature that came too close. Lisa pulled out a small device from her pack and connected it to the console. Lights flashed wildly as she worked, her fingers flying over the controls. "Hurry," Danny shouted, ducking as one of the creatures lunged at him. He fired blindly, hitting it in the leg, but failing to slow it down. "I'm trying," Lisa snapped, her focus unbroken. After a few tense seconds, the console sparked violently, and the glowing conduits dimmed. The creatures froze mid-motion, their bodies collapsing to the ground like puppets with their strings cut. For a moment, there was silence. The team stood panting, staring at the fallen creatures in disbelief. Rachel broke the quiet first. Did we win for now?" Lisa said, standing up. She wiped sweat from her forehead and looked at Rex. "Nice work, soldier." Danny laughed weakly. "Your tiger really is trained, huh?" Lisa smiled faintly. "Told you so." The chamber fell silent after the creatures collapsed. The glowing conduits had dimmed completely, leaving only faint emergency lights to illuminate the space. The air felt colder now, almost icy, as though the alien system had been keeping the room alive with its energy. Lisa stood near the console, her breath visible in the frosty atmosphere. Rex sat beside her, his body relaxed but alert, his golden eyes scanning the shadows. "Well," Danny said, lowering his weapon cautiously. "That was fun." "Fun," Pete snapped, still shaking from adrenaline. "We almost got torn apart by alien monsters. And Rex saved us," Rachel added, glancing at the tiger with a mix of awe and gratitude. "If it weren't for him, we'd be dead." Lisa didn't respond. She was focused on the console, examining the damage she'd caused. Sparks sputtered occasionally, and the screen flickered weakly, displaying symbols none of them could understand. Whatever this place was, it wasn't done yet. "We need to move," Lisa said finally, turning to face the group. "That power surge won't last forever. If whatever controls this place comes back online, we're in trouble." "Move where?" Danny asked, gesturing around the chamber. "There's no exit except the way we came, and I don't think those things are staying down for long." Lisa pointed to a narrow passage at the far end of the room. It was barely visible, hidden behind a fallen piece of machinery. "That leads deeper. If we can find the main control hub, maybe we can shut this whole thing down for good." Rachel frowned. "Deeper? You mean closer to whatever created all this?" "Yes," Lisa replied simply. "Unless you want to wait here and see if the aliens come back." No one argued after that. They gathered their gear quickly, keeping close together as they approached the passage. Rex took the lead, his massive frame filling the tight space. His growls echoed softly, warning them of anything lurking ahead. Lisa followed right behind him, her hand resting lightly on his back. The passage twisted and turned, leading them farther into the alien structure. The walls were smooth and cold, etched with the same glowing patterns they'd seen earlier. Every so often, the ground trembled slightly, as though the building itself was reacting to their presence. The hum of machinery grew louder again, a constant reminder that the system wasn't fully dead. After several minutes of walking, they reached another chamber. This one was smaller than the others, dominated by a large circular platform in the center. The platform was covered in intricate designs, pulsing faintly with blue light. Above it hung a cluster of floating orbs, each one glowing brighter as the team entered. "What is this place?" Rachel whispered, her voice filled with wonder. She stepped closer to the platform, reaching out hesitantly to touch it. "Don't," Lisa warned sharply. "We don't know what it does." But Rachel ignored her, brushing her fingers against the surface. The moment she made contact, the platform lit up completely. The floating orbs began spinning rapidly, casting beams of light across the room. A low rumble filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. "Great," Danny muttered, raising his weapon. "Now what?" Before anyone could answer, the platform split open, revealing a dark pit beneath. Something rose slowly from the depths, a massive, mechanical creature unlike anything they'd seen before. Its body was sleek and angular, covered in plates that shifted and realigned with every movement. Its head was crowned with sharp spines, and its eyes glowed red, scanning the room with cold precision. "This is bad," Pete said, backing away nervously. "This is really, really bad." Lisa stepped forward, her expression calm despite the danger. "Rex, stay close," the tiger growled deeply. His body coiled tightly as he prepared to attack. The mechanical creature tilted its head, studying them curiously. Then, with a sudden burst of speed, it lunged toward the group. "Scatter!" Lisa shouted, diving to the side. Rex leaped forward, intercepting the creature before it could reach anyone else. He slammed into it with enough force to knock it off balance, his claws scraping against its metal hide. The creature roared a sound that rattled the walls and swung one of its arms at him. Rex dodged easily, his movements fluid and precise. While Rex kept the creature distracted, Lisa ran toward the platform. She examined it quickly, searching for a way to deactivate the machine. The symbols shifted and changed as she touched them, responding to her input. Behind her, Danny fired shots at the creature, trying to slow it down. Each bullet ricocheted harmlessly off its armor, but it bought Lisa precious seconds. "Lisa, hurry," Rachel shouted, crouching behind a fallen pillar. "It's going to kill Rex." "I'm working on it," Lisa snapped, her fingers flying over the controls. Finally, she found what she was looking for, a sequence of symbols that seemed to correspond to the creature. Escort systems. She pressed them in order, and the platform emitted a high-pitched whine. The mechanical creature froze mid-attack, its red eyes dimming slightly. It turned to face Lisa, its movements jerky and uncertain. Then, with a final burst of energy, it collapsed to the ground, its body breaking apart into pieces. For a moment, there was silence. The team stared at the wreckage, too stunned to speak. Rex padded back to Lisa, his tail swishing lazily as though nothing had happened. That was insane," Danny said finally, lowering his weapon. "Your tiger just fought a robot monster." Lisa shrugged, scratching Rex behind the ears. "He's trained." Rachel stepped forward, her curiosity outweighing her fear. "What did you do? How did you stop it?" "I disrupted its core programming," Lisa explained, stepping away from the platform. "These machines, they're not self-aware. They follow commands. Once I figured out how to override them, it was easy." "Easy?" Pete repeated, his voice incredulous. "You call that easy?" "It could have been worse," Lisa replied dryly. Before anyone could respond, the ground trembled violently, the walls cracked, sending dust raining down from above. The hum of machinery returned, louder than ever, and the glowing patterns on the walls began to pulse erratically. "We triggered something," Rachel said, her voice rising in panic. "Whatever controls this place, it's waking up." Lisa glanced around quickly, assessing their options. "We need to find the central node. If we destroy it, we might be able to shut everything down. And if we don't," Danny asked, gripping his weapon tighter, "then we die," Lisa said bluntly. "Let's go." She led the group through another passage, following the source of the vibrations. Rex stayed close to her side, his ears flattened against his skull. The tremors grew stronger with each step, making it harder to keep their footing. Lights flickered wildly, casting strange shadows across the walls. Finally, they reached a massive door. It was reinforced, etched with ancient symbols that glowed faintly. In the center was a small panel, similar to the one Rex had opened earlier. Lisa turned to Rex. Think you can handle this one too? Rex snorted softly, padding forward. He sniffed the panel briefly, then raised his paw and swiped it across the surface. The door slid open smoothly, revealing a vast chamber beyond. Inside, a towering structure pulsed with blinding light, surrounded by streams of energy that crackled and sparked. This is it, Lisa said, her voice firm. The heart of the system. If we take it out, we stop everything. But how? Rachel asked, staring at the structure in awe. It looks indestructible. Lisa smiled faintly. Nothing's indestructible. She gave Rex a sharp whistle, and the tiger sprang into action. He charged toward the structure, dodging bursts of energy as he closed the distance. With a powerful leap, he landed on top of it, his claws digging into the metal surface. He tore at the core, ripping wires and circuits free until the entire structure shuddered violently. Energy exploded outward, throwing everyone to the ground. The chamber shook, and the walls began to collapse. Lisa grabbed Rex and pulled him back just as the structure imploded, sending a shockwave rippling through the room. When the dust settled, the chamber was dark and silent. The hum of machinery was gone, replaced by an eerie stillness. We did it, Rachel said softly, climbing to her feet. We actually did it. Lisa nodded, watching Rex shake dust from his fur. Yeah. Now let's get out of here. The team stumbled out of the alien structure, blinking against the harsh light of the colony's artificial suns. Dust clung to their clothes and faces, mixing with sweat from the adrenaline-fueled escape. Rex padded behind them, his golden fur streaked with dirt, but otherwise unbothered. Lisa led the way, her steps steady despite the exhaustion etched into her face. Well, Danny said, breaking the silence as they reached the transport vehicle. That was something. Pete repeated, his voice rising slightly. That was a nightmare. Alien monsters, killer robots, collapsing buildings. Does this kind of thing happen to you often? Lisa shrugged, climbing into the driver's seat. You get used to it. You're insane, Danny muttered under his breath. Though there was no real anger in his tone, he glanced at Rex, who had already curled up in the back of the vehicle, his head resting on his paws. And your tiger is officially the scariest thing I've ever seen. He's not scary, Lisa replied calmly, starting the engine. He's just efficient. The ride back to the colony felt longer than usual, every bump and jolt reminding them how close they'd come to disaster. No one spoke much. The weight of what had happened hung heavy in the air. Rachel stared out the window, her mind racing, with questions about the alien technology they'd encountered. Pete fiddled nervously with his helmet, replaying moments where he thought he might die. Danny kept checking his weapon, even though the mission was over. When they arrived, the colony was buzzing with activity. Workers rushed around, shouting updates about strange vibrations coming from beneath the surface. Charlie stood near the main entrance, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. When he saw the team stepping out of the transport, his expression shifted from frustration to disbelief. You're alive, he said flatly, looking them over. What happened down there? We found the source of the problem, Lisa answered simply. And we stopped it, Charlie blinked. Stopped it? How? It's complicated, Lisa said, brushing past him. She didn't feel like explaining everything, not yet. Not when her legs still felt shaky, and her mind was still trying to process everything that had happened. Mrs. Elliot appeared moments later, her sharp features pinched with irritation. Give any idea how much damage you've caused? She demanded, glaring at Lisa. The seismic readings are off the charts. Whatever you did down there has destabilized the entire area. We saved your colony. Lisa shot back, her voice calm but firm. If we hadn't gone in, whatever was down there would have torn this place apart. Mrs. Elliot opened her mouth to argue, but Charlie stepped between them. Enough, he said, holding up a hand. We'll deal with the fallout later. Right now, we need to focus on keeping everyone safe. As the argument fizzled out, the rest of the team dispersed. Rachel headed straight for the lab, determined to analyze the data she'd collected during the mission. Pete disappeared into the mess hall, muttering about needing a drink or 10. Danny lingered near Lisa, watching as Rex stretched lazily outside the transport. So, Danny said after a moment, scratching the back of his neck awkwardly. What happens now? Are you sticking around? Lisa shook her head. No. We've done our part. Time to move on. Danny frowned. Just like that. After everything that happened, there's nothing left for us here. Lisa replied, her gaze distant. Besides, trouble tends to follow us wherever we go. Better to leave before it catches up. Before Danny could respond, alarms blared across the colony. Red lights flashed overhead, casting an ominous glow over the domes. Workers scrambled toward shelters, panic spreading quickly. What now? Lisa muttered, Turning toward the control center. Inside, chaos reigned. Monitors displayed erratic readings, showing massive energy spikes deep underground. The ground trembled violently, knocking equipment off shelves and sending sparks flying. Mrs. Elliot shouted orders, her voice barely audible over the noise. "It's collapsing." Someone yelled, pointing at a screen. "The entire structure, it's falling in on itself." Lisa stepped forward, scanning the monitors. "Where's the epicenter?" "One of the drill sites," Charlie replied, his voice tight. "Close to where you were earlier." Lisa nodded, already moving toward the door. "I'm going." "What?" Danny exclaimed, following her. "Are you serious? You just got back. If that thing collapses completely, it could destroy the colony," Lisa said, glancing back at him. "Rex and I can stop it. You can't do this alone." Danny insisted. "Let me come with you." Lisa hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Fine. But stay close." They raced back to the transport, Rex leaping into the vehicle before either of them could climb in. The engine roared to life, and they sped toward the drill site. The closer they got, the worse the tremors became. Cracks split the ground wide. Enough to swallow a person whole. Dust filled the air, making visibility nearly impossible. When they arrived, the scene was apocalyptic. The ground had collapsed inward, forming a massive sinkhole that glowed faintly from within. Energy surged upward, crackling and snapping like lightning. The air smelled of ozone, sharp and metallic. "This is bad," Danny said, staring at the chasm. "How are we supposed to fix this?" Lisa studied the sinkhole carefully, her eyes narrowing. "We need to stabilize the core. If we can redirect the energy flow, we might be able to contain it." "And how exactly do we do that?" Danny asked, gripping his weapon tightly. Lisa turned to Rex. "Soldier, ready?" Rex growled softly, his body tense and alert. He crouched low, waiting for her signal. Lisa pointed to a narrow ledge leading down into the sinkhole. "There. That's our way in." "Are you crazy?" Danny shouted, grabbing her arm. "It's suicide." "It's the only option," Lisa replied, pulling free. "Stay here if you want, but Rex and I are going." Without waiting for a response, she started down the ledge, Rex close behind her. The path was unstable, crumbling beneath their feet. With every step, heat radiated from below, growing more intense the deeper they went. Sparks flew past them, singeing their clothes and leaving burns on exposed skin. At the bottom, they found the source of the collapse, a pulsating orb of raw energy suspended in midair. It hummed loudly, vibrating with power that made the ground shake uncontrollably. Surrounding it were fragments of alien machinery, sparking and sputtering as they tried to contain the energy. "This is it," Lisa said, her voice barely audible over the noise. "If we disrupt the flow, we can shut it down." "How?" Danny called from above, his voice strained. He hadn't followed them all the way down, but was close enough to see what they were doing. Lisa didn't answer. Instead, she whistled, sharply, catching Rex's attention. The tiger sprang forward, dodging bursts of energy as he closed the distance to the orb. With a powerful leap, he landed on top of it, his claws digging into its surface. He tore at the core, ripping wires and circuits free until the entire structure began to destabilize. Energy exploded outward, throwing Lisa and Rex backward. The ground shook violently, cracks spreading rapidly. Lisa grabbed Rex and pulled him away just as the orb imploded, sucking everything around it into a swirling vortex. When the dust settled, the sinkhole was gone. In its place was solid ground, scorched but stable. Above them, the tremors stopped, and the alarms fell silent. Danny climbed down cautiously, his face pale. Did it work?" Lisa nodded, standing up slowly. "Yeah, it worked." Rex shook himself off, his tail swishing lazily as though nothing had happened. Lisa smiled faintly, scratching him behind the ears. "Good job, soldier." The colony was quiet the next morning. The usual hum of machinery had returned, but it felt different, somehow calmer, steadier. Workers moved about cautiously, their faces a mix of relief and disbelief. No one spoke much. They were still, processing what had happened. Lisa stood near the edge of the main dome, watching Rex stretch lazily in the sunlight that filtered through the reinforced glass. His golden fur gleamed as he rolled onto his back, exposing his belly to the warmth. Danny approached her, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. He looked tired, his face pale from lack of sleep, but there was a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "So," he said after a moment, "you saved us again." Lisa shrugged, keeping her gaze on Rex. "It's what we do." "You make it sound so casual," Danny replied, shaking his head. "Alien ruins, collapsing structures, glowing orbs of doom. I mean, most people would have run screaming." "Most people don't have a tiger like him," Lisa said, nodding. Toward Rex, the big cat yawned widely, showing off teeth that could have snapped metal rods. Besides, running doesn't solve anything. Danny chuckled softly, then grew serious. Still, you didn't have to come back. After everything you did, you could have left. Why stay? Lisa glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. Because this place isn't done yet. Sure, we stopped the immediate threat, but those ruins are still down there. Whatever built them, they're not gone. Not completely. Danny frowned. You think they'll come back? I think we need to be ready, Lisa said simply. And if anyone else tries to dig too deep, they'll need someone who knows what they're dealing with. Before Danny could respond, Mrs. Elliot appeared. Her sharp features softened slightly by exhaustion. She walked up to Lisa, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. For once, she didn't look angry, just weary. You've caused a lot of trouble, she began, her tone clipped. Destroyed equipment, endangered lives, destabilized an entire operation. Lisa raised an eyebrow. And saved your colony. Mrs. Elliot hesitated, then sighed. Yes, you did. She glanced at Rex, who had sat up and was now staring at her with unblinking eyes. I won't pretend to understand how you did it or why, but I can't deny the results. If you hadn't acted, none of us would be standing here right now. Lisa nodded, her expression unreadable. Glad we're clear. Mrs. Elliot straightened, regaining some of her usual authority. That said, corporate will want answers. Reports, analyses, explanations. She paused, looking directly at Lisa. Will you cooperate? Depends, Lisa replied coolly. Are you planning to send another team into those ruins? No. Mrs. Elliot said quickly, almost too quickly. Not unless absolutely necessary. Good, Lisa said, turning away. Then we'll talk. Mrs. Elliot opened her mouth to argue, but thought better of it. Instead, she turned and walked briskly back toward the control center. Muttering something under her breath about liability waivers, Danny watched her go, then turned back to Lisa. What happens now? Are you really sticking around for a while? Lisa said, scratching Rex behind the ears. Until I'm sure this place is safe. Then we'll move on. Move on where? Danny asked curiously. Lisa smiled faintly. Wherever trouble finds us. Danny laughed softly. You're insane, you know that. So I've been told, Lisa replied, her tone light. But it works. Over the next few days, life in the colony slowly returned to normal, or as close to normal as it could get. After everything that had happened, repairs were underway, and workers cautiously resumed their tasks, though no one dared to touch the drill sites near the alien ruins. Rumors spread about Lisa and Rex, growing wilder with each retelling. Some claimed Rex could speak human languages. Others swore he'd single-handedly fought off an army of aliens. Lisa didn't bother correcting them. Letting people believe what they wanted was easier than explaining the truth. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the domes, Lisa packed up her gear. Rex lounged nearby, watching her with half-closed eyes. She moved methodically, folding clothes and stowing tools into a battered duffel bag. When she finished, she slung the bag over her shoulder and whistled softly. Rex stood instantly, padding silently to her side. You're leaving? Danny asked, appearing in the doorway of her quarters. He looked surprised, maybe even a little hurt. Yeah, Lisa said, adjusting the strap of her bag. Time to go. But why? You just got here. Lisa smiled faintly. We don't stay in one place for long. Besides, this colony's safe now. That's all that matters. What? About the ruins, Danny pressed. What if something else happens? If it does, you'll figure it out. Lisa said confidently. You're tougher than you think. Danny opened his mouth to argue, but stopped himself. Instead, he extended a hand. Thanks for everything. Lisa shook it firmly. Take care of yourself, Danny. With that, she turned and walked toward the shuttle bay, Rex following close behind. Workers paused to watch them pass, whispering among themselves. Some waved, others nodded respectfully. Lisa acknowledged them with a small smile, but her focus remained ahead. At the shuttle, she climbed aboard and secured her gear. Rex settled into the co-pilot seat, his tail curling neatly around his paws. As the engines roared to life, Lisa glanced out the window one last time. The colony looked peaceful, its domes glowing softly in the twilight. It was hard to believe how close it had come to destruction. The shuttle lifted off smoothly, rising above the planet's surface. Below them, the alien ruins lay dormant, hidden beneath layers of rock and dust. For now, they were silent, but Lisa knew better than to trust silence. Trouble always found her eventually. As the shuttle broke free of the atmosphere, Lisa leaned back in her seat, Letting out a long breath, Rex nudged her arm gently, and she scratched him behind the ears. "All right, soldier," she said quietly. "Let's see where the next adventure takes us." The stars stretched out before them, endless and inviting. Wherever they went next, one thing was certain: Lisa and Rex weren't done yet.